All right, buckle up everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into a Serie A showdown that's got all the makings of a classic. AC Milan versus Juventus at the San Siro.
It's match day 13, and you know the atmosphere is going to be absolutely electric.
It's going to be crazy, and by the end of this deep dive, you'll be dropping Serie A knowledge like a true Italian football expert.
What's so interesting about this matchup is the clash of styles we're going to see. You've got Milan with that attacking flair.
They love to attack.
Up against Juventus, the masters of, well, defensive steel.
It's a real tactical puzzle.
It really is.
So let's start with recent form. Milan's been a little unpredictable.
Yeah.
They're capable of these dazzling wins. I mean, that Real Madrid victory was incredible.
Oh, yeah, that was something special.
But then they dropped points in Serie A, and the defense has looked a bit shaky at times.
Yeah, exactly. And that inconsistency is where the opportunity lies for Juventus.
So you're saying that's Juventus's way in?
Well, you see, while Milan has the firepower, their backline has been leaking goals 7 in their last 3 home matches.
7 goals.
7 goals in Serie A alone.
That's a lot to worry about if you're a Milan fan.
It is. It is.
I mean, can their attack really outscore that kind of defensive vulnerability?
That's the huge question mark going into this one, especially when you consider who they're up against.
Juventus?
Juventus on the road, they're a different beast.
They really are a different beast.
Their away form has been rock solid. They've only conceded a handful of goals in their travels. Their discipline is remarkable.
It really is impressive.
They're like a python, you know? Slowly squeezing the life out of their opponents.
I like that analogy. Very descriptive.
You can just see them just slowly wearing teams down.
So you're saying Juventus are the favorites going into this one, even though it's the San Siro?
I'd say they have a slight edge. Yes, their consistency and that defensive strength make them so tough to beat. But let's not forget Milan's home advantage.
That's true. They do have that.
And their potential to just explode offensively, this is not a foregone conclusion by any means.
No, not at all.
It could go either way.
And it's interesting to see how differently these two teams approach scoring goals. Milan just loves a high-scoring thriller.
They do.
Whereas Juventus prefers it more controlled, low-scoring.
Yeah. I mean, that's classic Allegri, isn't it?
That's what they're known for.
Keep it tight at the back and nick a goal, you know?
And it works for them.
It does. It does.
So that contrast in styles, that's really what makes this matchup so fascinating.
Absolutely. Will Milan's attacking waves crash through Juventus's defensive wall? Or will Juve's tactical discipline win the day?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. It is. That's what we're all going to be watching for.
And of course, no preview would be complete without mentioning some of the key players who could make all the difference.
Of course not.
For Milan, you have to start with Leão.
He's the one to watch.
His creativity is going to be so crucial in trying to unlock that Juventus defense.
Leão's the wild card. If he's on form, he can be unplayable, but he needs to be at his best because he'll be up against Danilo, who is like a rock on that Juventus right side.
That's right, he's so solid.
That duel on the flank could be decisive.
Yeah, it's going to be a real battle.
Absolutely.
And for Milan, up front, you've got the evergreen Olivier Giroud. He's still a force to be reckoned with.
He is, especially in the air.
Can he outmuscle that Juventus defense and get on the score sheet?
Giroud's experience and physicality will be important, but he'll need service. And that's where someone like Sandro Tonali comes in.
Tonali's the key.
If he can control that midfield for Milan, they'll have a much better chance of creating the chances that Giroud needs to thrive.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, he's got to get the ball to him.
And what about Juventus? Who are the danger men we need to be aware of?
Well, the obvious one is Dusan Vlahović.
Of course.
He's their main goal threat, a clinical finisher.
He's been phenomenal for them.
Yeah, but the key for Juventus will be their defensive organization, I think.
So it's about keeping it tight at the back.
I think so. I think they'll rely on that experienced duo of Bremer and Danilo to keep things tight and just frustrate those Milan attackers.
Yeah, it's like we were saying before, just that slow squeeze.
Exactly. They'll be patient, wait for their opportunities, and try to hit Milan on the break.
So if Milan can't break through that wall, it could be a long night for them.
Yeah, they'll need to be patient and clinical in front of goal.
So we've got a potential mismatch in the midfield then. Milan's is a bit more attack-minded, whereas Juventus prioritizes defensive stability.
Yeah, I mean, could this be where the game is won and lost?
Potentially.
Potentially, yeah. If Juventus can control the midfield and dictate the tempo, it will be very, very difficult for Milan to get their attacking game going.
But if Milan can find a way to bypass that midfield screen and get the ball to their danger men quickly.
Well, then they can cause Juventus all sorts of problems, yeah.
It's like a chess match unfolding in my mind right now.
That's a great way to put it.
All these tactical battles.
This match will be about tactical adjustments, about exploiting weaknesses and maximizing strengths. Both managers are going to be looking for that one key move that unlocks the game.
I'm already getting excited just thinking about it. I can picture the San Siro buzzing under the lights.
Me too. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere.
Now, before we move on to the tactical deep dive, I want to touch on injuries quickly.
Okay.
It sounds like Milan's defense, which is already a bit suspect, might be even more vulnerable with a couple of key players potentially missing.
That's right. They are dealing with some injury concerns at the back.
That's not good news for Milan fans.
Not really, no. And it plays right into Juventus's hands.
Of course.
They love to exploit those kinds of weaknesses.
Makes sense. And how's Juventus looking?
They're looking pretty good on the injury front. Relatively clean bill of health.
So advantage Juventus in that department.
I'd say so, yeah.
All right, well, now that we've set the scene, let's really get into the nitty-gritty.
Let's do it.
You mentioned a tactical deep dive.
I did.
And that's what this whole deep dive is about.
It is. It is.
Let's break down the specific tactical areas that will likely determine the outcome of this clash. Are you ready to get granular?
Absolutely. Let's unpack the tactical chessboard and see where the real battles will be fought.
Perfect. Let's start with the defensive organization. We've already talked about Milan's leaky defense. What specific vulnerabilities do you see Juventus being able to exploit?
Well, remember those 7 goals that Milan conceded at home?
I do, yeah.
That's a big red flag for Juventus. They are masters of the counterattack, especially with the pace that they have on the wings.
So they'll be looking to hit Milan on the break.
Think of it like a coiled spring.
Okay, I like where this is going.
They absorb pressure, wait for Milan to overcommit, and then bang! They release players like Chiesa and Vlahović into space.
Yeah, Chiesa, Vlahović, they've got the pace to burn.
And if Milan's defense isn't perfectly organized, it could be a recipe for disaster.
You're saying even though Milan will be at home, their defense is going to be under immense pressure.
Absolutely. They'll need to be incredibly disciplined and organized to handle Juventus's counterattacking threat.
If they get caught out of position even once.
Juventus has the quality to punish them.
Okay, so that's the defensive side of things. Now let's shift our focus to the midfield battle. We already touched on the potential mismatch there. Milan being more attack-minded, Juventus prioritizing defensive solidity. Can you elaborate on what that clash might look like?
Well, it's going to be a fascinating battle of styles. Milan's midfielders like Tonali and Bennacer, they're going to be looking to control the tempo, dictate the play, and create chances, but they'll need to be wary of Juventus's midfield enforcers, players like Locatelli and Rabiot.
They can be tough to deal with.
They'll be tasked with breaking up play, stifling Milan's creativity.
So it sounds like the key for Milan is to find a way to bypass that Juventus midfield screen. Do you see them having any success with that?
It's going to be tough, but not impossible.
Give you some hope here.
They'll need to be clever with their movement, use quick passing combinations, and try to exploit any gaps that open up.
Any other tactical wrinkles we should be looking out for?
One thing to watch for is how Milan uses their fullbacks, players like Theo Hernandez. They love to bomb forward and join the attack, and that could create overloads on the flanks that Juventus will struggle to deal with.
That's a great point. We've talked about how dangerous Juventus can be on the counter, but it sounds like Milan might have a tactical advantage when it comes to wing play and creating chances from wide areas.
It's certainly an area where Milan can hurt Juventus. They have some real quality on the wings, especially with Leão and Theo Hernandez, but they'll need to be smart about their attacking movements.
If they get caught too far forward.
If they leave themselves exposed at the back, Juventus will be ready to pounce.
It feels like every tactical decision in this match will have consequences at the other end of the pitch.
Absolutely. One wrong move and either team could be punished.
It's a real tactical chess match.
It is. It is. High stakes.
Okay, so we've covered defensive organization, midfield battles, and wing play.
We've done a...
Let's move on to the final third and talk about how these two teams approach scoring goals. We've already mentioned how Milan loves to play that open attacking style, while Juventus is more pragmatic and efficient.
Classic Italian, you know.
But can you delve a bit deeper into what we might expect to see in this area?
Well, with Milan, it's all about fluid movement, quick passing, and trying to create overloads in those attacking areas.
So really stretch that Juventus defense.
Yeah, they rely heavily on their wingers to create chances, and they'll be looking to get Giroud involved in the box as much as possible.
To get the big man involved.
Yeah, use his physicality.
Makes sense. And what about Juventus?
Juventus, on the other hand, is more patient. They're happy to sit back, absorb pressure, and wait for the right moment to strike.
Bide their time.
Exactly. They'll be looking to exploit any defensive errors from Milan and hit them on the break with pace and precision.
Two completely different approaches.
Yeah, almost like a clash of philosophies.
It really is, and that's what makes this match so intriguing. Will Milan's attacking flair overwhelm Juventus's defensive discipline? Or will Juventus's pragmatism and efficiency prove to be the difference?
Huge questions going into this one.
It's impossible to predict with any certainty.
Impossible, yeah.
But I have a feeling we're in for a real treat.
I think so too.
Now, before we move on to the individual matchups that will likely decide this game, let's quickly touch on betting insights.
All right, let's do it.
And remember, these are just for fun, definitely not financial advice.
Of course. Always gamble responsibly.
Absolutely. Okay, so given everything we've discussed so far, what are some of the betting options that might be worth considering?
Well, if you're feeling cautious, the double chance Juventus or draw could be a good option. Juventus's defensive strength and Milan's inconsistency make a draw or Juventus win seem quite likely.
That's a fair assessment. What about for those who like a bit more risk?
Well, if you think both teams will find the back of the net, both teams to score is always a popular option in these kinds of matches. Milan's attack is potent, and even Juventus's defense might struggle to contain them for the full 90 minutes.
And for those who prefer a more conservative approach?
Under 2.5 goals could be an option. It aligns with Juventus's tendency to keep things tight, especially in big matches like this one.
Okay, and finally, for those who like to bet on individual brilliance, what about a goal scorer bet?
Well, if I had to pick two players, I'd say keep an eye on Leão for Milan and Vlahović for Juventus. Both players have that quality to find the back of the net.
Great insights. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've looked at recent form, tactical approaches, key players, and even betting insights.
It's been a busy one.
Are you ready to move on to the individual battles that will likely decide this match?
Absolutely. Let's zoom in on those key matchups and see who has the edge.
Perfect. That's exactly what we'll be doing in part 2 of this deep dive. Stay tuned.
It's only going to get more interesting from here. All right, so you ready to break down some of these individual battles that could decide the match? These are the matchups that will have fans on the edge of their seats.
Oh, absolutely. This is where the tactical rubber meets the road, right?
It is, yeah.
Let's start with that explosive matchup on the left wing. We've got Rafael Leão for Milan, a player who can just dribble past defenders like they're not even there, going up against Danilo for Juventus, a veteran defender who's seen it all.
I mean, this one is going to be a fascinating clash of styles. Leon's got that youthful exuberance, the raw talent, the ability to just create something out of nothing but Danilo. Danilo is a master of positioning and reading the game.
So you don't think he's going to fall for any of Leon's tricks?
He's not going to fall for them easily, that's for sure.
I could already picture Leão trying to dance past Danilo with those quick feet. Do you think Danilo has the pace to keep up with him?
I mean, that's the big question, right? If Leão can isolate Danilo and get him one-on-one, it could be a long night for the Juventus defender. But if Danilo can use his experience and intelligence to force Leão into tight spaces or double-team him with help from his teammates, well, then he can neutralize that threat.
So for Milan, it's all about giving Leão the freedom to operate, to find those pockets of space where he can do his damage. And for Juventus, it's about making sure he never gets comfortable, never gets a chance to build up a head of steam.
Exactly. And it's not just about those two players either. It's about the tactical support they receive.
Right. The whole team.
If Milan's midfielders can provide Leão with quick passing options and create overloads on that flank, it will make Danilo's job a lot harder. But on the flip side, if Juventus can quickly close down the space around Leão and force him to make rush decisions, they can really disrupt that Milan attack.
Okay, so that's the battle on the left wing.
Yeah.
What about the other side of the pitch? We've got Federico Chiesa for Juventus, another incredibly dangerous winger, up against Theo Hernandez. For Milan, a fullback who loves to get forward. Oh, yeah. I mean, that has the potential to be a track meet, doesn't it?
It certainly does. This matchup is all about pace and attacking intent. Both players love to bomb forward, and they're both capable of scoring some spectacular goals.
But there's got to be a difference, right?
The key difference is their defensive responsibilities.
Ah, so you're saying Hernandez might be more vulnerable defensively because he's a fullback, whereas Chiesa is primarily a winger.
Exactly. Hernandez has a tendency to get caught upfield, and that could leave space behind him for someone like Chiesa to exploit. And Chiesa is absolutely lethal when he's given space to run into. He's got that blistering pace, the ability to finish with either foot.
I mean, that sounds like a nightmare scenario for Milan fans. Chiesa running at their defense with space to operate. Do you think Pioli, Milan's manager, will try to address that potential weakness tactically?
Well, I'm sure he'll be aware of the threat that Chiesa poses.
He has to be.
He might ask one of his midfielders to provide extra cover for Hernandez or instruct Hernandez to be a bit more disciplined defensively.
But then doesn't that take away from Milan's attack?
That's the problem. If you restrict Hernandez's attacking runs too much, you're taking away one of Milan's biggest weapons. It's a real tactical dilemma for Pioli.
It's like a game of chess where every move you make creates a new vulnerability somewhere else. It's all about finding the right balance.
Exactly. And speaking of balance, let's move on to the battle of the strikers. We've got Olivier Giroud for Milan, the veteran target man, going up against Gleison Bremer for Juventus, one of the toughest defenders in Serie A.
That's going to be a physical clash, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you imagine being caught between those two in the penalty area?
Not a place you want to be.
It wouldn't be pleasant. Giroud is still so strong in the air, and Bremer is known for his no-nonsense physical approach.
It's going to be a battle of wills. As much as anything, Giroud will be looking to use his experience and physicality to hold the ball up, bring his teammates into play, win those aerial duels, and Bremer, on the other hand, will be trying to disrupt Giroud's rhythm and make it difficult for him to get on the ball, just generally make life uncomfortable for him.
Do you see Giroud having much success against Bremer? He's been a real nuisance for defenders throughout his career.
I mean, it's going to be a tough task for Giroud. Bremer is a fantastic defender, strong, athletic, intelligent. He doesn't give away much space, and he's very good at reading the game.
Right.
But Giroud has a knack for finding a way to score even when he's tightly marked.
So you're saying don't count Giroud out?
I'm saying don't count Giroud out.
And don't forget, it's not just about Giroud winning individual battles against Bremer. It's about how he links up with his teammates.
Yeah.
If Milan can get runners off Giroud, if they can exploit the space that he creates with his hold-up play, that's where they could really hurt Juventus.
That's a great point. Giroud might not be the fastest player anymore, but his intelligence, his awareness make him such a valuable asset for Milan.
Okay, so we've talked about the battle of the strikers, but let's not forget about Juventus' own goal-scoring threat. They've got Dusan Vlahović up front, a player who's capable of scoring all kinds of goals. Who do you see him matching up against for Milan?
Well, likely Fikayo Tomori. It's going to be a classic matchup of youth versus experience. Vlahović is one of the most exciting young strikers in the world. He's got pace, power, clinical finishing ability. Tomori, on the other hand, is a bit more established.
Just a bit more seasoned.
He's a solid, reliable defender, very good in one-on-one situations.
So another intriguing battle. What do you think will be the key to this matchup?
Well, for Vlahović, it's all about movement. He needs to be constantly on the move, trying to find space behind Milan's defense, making those diagonal runs that can pull defenders out of position. And for Tomori, it's about staying concentrated, not getting caught ball watching, and being physical with Vlahović. If he can deny Vlahović space to operate, Milan's chances of keeping a clean sheet increase significantly.
I mean, so many fascinating duels within the larger game.
Right.
It's making my head spin a little bit.
And we haven't even talked about the midfield battle yet.
Oh, that's right.
That's another area where this game could be won or lost. We've got Sandro Tonali from Milan, a young midfielder who's quickly becoming one of the best in Serie A, going up against Manuel Locatelli for Juventus, a player who's known for his composure and passing ability.
I'm excited to see this one. Tonali has been in such great form for Milan this season. He's got that mix of defensive grit and attacking flair that makes him so difficult to handle.
Yeah, he really is a complete midfielder. He can tackle, he can pass, he can score goals. He's the engine that drives that Milan attack. But Locatelli's no slouch either. He's a very intelligent player, and he'll be looking to control the tempo of the game for Juventus.
So it's another battle of styles then. Tonali, the dynamic force, versus Locatelli, the calm orchestrator. Who do you think will come out on top in this midfield duel?
It's tough to say. It might come down to who can impose their style on the game. If Tonali can get forward and support Milan's attack, he could be a real difference maker.
Right, he could really tip the scales.
But if Locatelli can slow the game down, dictate the pace, and keep Tonali quiet, Juventus will have a much better chance of controlling the match.
You know, we've talked about so many tactical nuances and individual battles, and I think it really highlights just how complex and fascinating this match is going to be.
It really does. There are so many layers to this game. It's not just about who has the best players. It's about how those players work together, how they adapt to their opponents, how they execute their game plan.
I feel like I've learned so much already, and we're only halfway through our deep dive.
We've covered a lot.
It's incredible how much tactical depth there is to a single football match when you really start to break it down.
Absolutely. And we haven't even discussed the impact of the managers yet.
Oh, that's right. Both Stefano Pioli for Milan and Massimiliano Allegri for Juventus, they're known for their tactical acumen.
Some of the best in the business.
Okay, let's talk about the managers then. What kind of impact do you think they'll have on this match?
Well, I mean, they'll be the ones setting the tactical framework, making those crucial in-game adjustments, motivating their players. It's a battle of wits on the sidelines as much as it is on the pitch.
A real chess match.
It is. It is.
All right, let's start with Pioli. What kind of approach do you think he'll take with Milan?
I think he's going to stick to his attacking principles. You know, he'll want his team to play with energy, intensity, creativity.
So we'll see that classic Milan attacking style.
But he'll also be aware of the threat Juventus poses on the counterattack. So he'll need to find the right balance between attacking freedom and defensive responsibility.
So he's got a bit of a tactical tightrope to walk.
He does.
Too much attacking, and they leave themselves open.
Yeah.
Too much defending, and they stifle their own creativity. It's a tough call.
Exactly. That's where Pioli's tactical flexibility will come into play. He might start with a more cautious approach, trying to feel out Juventus and limit their counterattacking opportunities. But as the game progresses, I expect him to become more adventurous, to push his team forward and try to exploit any weaknesses in Juventus's defense.
So his in-game management will be crucial.
Very crucial, yeah.
What about Allegri? What kind of approach do you think he'll take with Juventus?
Well, Allegri is known for his pragmatism. You know, he's not afraid to sit back, absorb pressure, and hit teams on the rock.
So classic Juventus, very controlled.
But he's also a very astute tactician. He'll have a plan for Milan, and he'll be prepared to make adjustments as the game unfolds.
So you're saying he's adaptable, he can play different styles depending on the opponent and the situation?
Exactly. He might start with a more conservative approach, trying to frustrate Milan, limit their attacking options. But if he sees an opportunity to exploit a weakness, he won't hesitate to change his tactics and push his team forward.
I'm starting to think that this game is going to be decided by those small tactical details, those moments of brilliance from the managers, and those individual battles that we've been talking about.
I think you're right. It's going to be a fascinating tactical duel between two of the best managers in Serie A, and the result could come down to who makes the right decisions at the right moments.
This has been an incredible deep dive so far.
It has.
I feel like I'm ready to coach either one of these teams right now.
Yeah.
But before we wrap things up, let's take a step back and talk about the bigger picture. What are the implications of this match for both teams in terms of the Serie A title race?
Well, this match could have a significant impact on the title race. Both teams are considered contenders, and a win for either side would be a huge boost to their confidence and their league position.
Okay, so let's start with Milan. They've had a bit of an up-and-down start to the season, but a win against Juventus would certainly put them back on track.
Absolutely. A win against a direct rival like Juventus would be a huge statement of intent from Milan. It would show that they're serious contenders and that they're capable of beating the best teams in the league.
And what about Juventus? They seem to be finding their form after a bit of a slow start. A win at the San Siro would be a massive result for them.
It would indeed. A win against Milan, especially at the San Siro, would send a message to the rest of the league that Juventus is back and that they're ready to reclaim their title.
So, a lot at stake then.
There is.
This match is more than just 3 points. It's about momentum, confidence, and making a statement to the rest of the league.
Exactly. And let's not forget the psychological impact of this match.
Oh, the mental game.
A win for either team could have a ripple effect that lasts for weeks or even months.
It's amazing how much weight a single match can carry. This is why we love football, isn't it?
This is why we watch, yeah.
The drama, the tension, the unpredictable nature of it all.
Absolutely. And I have a feeling this match is going to deliver on all fronts.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive. We've analyzed individual matchups, discussed tactical approaches, and even looked at the broader implications of this match. Are you ready to move on to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll offer our predictions and final thoughts?
Let's do it. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on who will emerge victorious in this tactical battle.
All right, stay tuned for part 3, where we'll wrap up this deep dive with our predictions and some final thoughts on this epic clash between Milan and Juventus. You won't want to miss it. Okay, so we've spent the last 2 parts of this deep dive really dissecting every single angle of this AC Milan versus Juventus clash.
I mean, from top to bottom.
Tactics, individual matchups. We even talked about what the managers like to eat for breakfast.
Right. Maybe not that far.
But pretty close. And now
For the moment of truth.
prediction time.
It is, yeah. Who do you think's gonna win?
I am so excited to hear your prediction for this match.
Okay, well, based on everything.
Yeah.
Everything we've talked about, all the little tactical nuances.
Right.
Key players, potential weaknesses.
I think this match is going to be incredibly tight.
Yeah, it's really tough to call, isn't it?
It is. It is. But if you had to pick a winner,
Okay, so if I have to put my money where my mouth is,
let's hear it.
I'm gonna go with a narrow Juventus victory.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Going against the home advantage.
I am, but hear me out.
Okay, lay it on me.
I just think that Juventus defensive solidity, that experience, that
Yeah.
Python-like grip you were talking
That's
about.
Python, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be too much for Milan to handle, especially with, those defensive injuries Milan is carrying.
Right. That back line is a little bit shaky.
It is a little suspect, yeah.
Would you be surprised, though, if Milan pulled off the upset?
Not at all.
I mean, they do have that attacking firepower to do it.
Especially if Leão has one of those magical nights.
He could single-handedly win it for them.
He could, and let's not forget that San Siro crowd.
They will be rocking.
They're gonna be a big factor in this one as well.
So what's your score prediction?
I'm going 1-0 Juventus.
1-0 Juventus. Okay, so a tight tactical battle.
Classic Italian.
Classic Italian match decided by a single goal.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those.
Nail biter.
Yeah, nail biter for sure. But, as we've said, throughout this entire deep dive,
Anything can happen.
it's football. Anything can happen.
That's the beauty of it.
It keeps us guessing, keeps us coming back for more.
Right until the final whistle. So even though you're predicting a Juventus victory, you wouldn't be shocked.
Wouldn't be shocked at all.
If Milan found a way.
Nope.
Or even if it ended in a draw.
Yeah, could definitely see a draw.
I mean, a draw is definitely on the cards.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those matches that you can't miss it. You got to watch it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So there you have it.
Our complete and total deep dive
From start to finish.
into AC Milan versus Juventus. We covered it all. The tactical intricacies, the key players,
Storylines, the drama.
and hopefully we've given you, the listener, all of the knowledge and insights you need to truly appreciate this epic clash.
We tried our best.
I think we did all right.
So now it's time to just, sit back, relax, and enjoy the spectacle.
I can't wait.
Neither.
May the best team win, and may your predictions.
Be spot on.
Until next time, keep exploring.
Keep learning.
And most importantly, keep that passion for the beautiful game alive.
Ciao.
Arrivederci.